What's up guys, welcome back to another build guide. Today we're going to be making Twisting Blades S tier again. We'll be going over the Uber Cold Imbue Twisting Blades build, and this build is actually crazy and has performed far better than I expected it to. With this setup, I'm able to solo carry 4-man tier 100 nightmare dungeons and fairly easily. I'll be going over the super late game version of the build, however there will be a link into a build planner that does use a 0 Uber uniques and it still slams tier 100s. In this video, we'll be going over skills, the skill tree, gear, the seasonal mechanic, the Paragon boards, and then we'll wrap it up with the bossing setup. As normal, there will be timestamps in the description. But really quick before we get into the build guide, I want to tell you guys about something that's really helped me stabilize my ping and minimize lagging. I'm sure all of you experience entering a new zone and your character having a spaz attack while the zone loads, but I found a great solution, Lagofast. You can see just from the gameplay the difference in ping with Lagofast on versus it off. Lagofast allows you to choose which server you want to connect to and streamlines your connection, leading to better ping, faster zone loads, and overall a smoother gameplay experience in and out of the dungeons. It's super simple to use. Launch the app, select your game, choose your server, and you can launch the game straight from Lagofast. They have support for tons of other games as well as support for both console and PC, so go to lagofast.com or click the link in the description and get a free premium trial. And if you like the service, you can use code DeShanzo for 30% off. Starting off with our skills, we'll be running Concealment, Dash, Twisting Blades, Cold Imbue, Caltrops, and Puncture with the specialization combo points. The reason for going Cold Imbue with this setup is it pretty much acts like Frostburns. One hit with Cold Imbued Twisting Blades instantly freezes enemies, leading to massive damage against frozen enemies as well as providing a ton of crowd control. As for our utility skills, Concealment is our CC break, as well as a boost to our all-res, giving us 80% all-res whenever we exit stealth, and has a 10-second cooldown reduction on elite kills, leading us to having this up most of the time. As for Caltrops, it provides a ton of damage for enemies that are within them, so whenever you just have a large pack of elites, go ahead and throw these down and you'll melt through them. As for our agility skill, we're using Dash, giving this build excellent mobility and a crit multi on enemies that we dash through. So when you're spamming your Twisting Blades and dash through a pack of enemies, having them follow behind, they'll deal some crazy damage. And lastly, we're running Twisting Blades and Puncture, which is just the go-to for combo points Twisting Blades, especially when you're running Tricks of the Trade in the Paragon boards, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And just to quickly go over the skill tree here, we're going 1 into Puncture with Fundamental Puncture, maxing out Twisting Blades with Advanced Twisting Blades, 3 into Sturdy, 3 into Siphoning Strikes. Moving on, we're going 2 points into Rugged, 3 into Weapon Mastery, 1 into Dash, picking up Enhanced Dash for that critical strike damage multiplier, 1 into Caltrops with Methodical Caltrops, making them chill, 1 into Concealment and only picking up Enhanced Concealment here, 3 into Exploit, 3 into Malice, 3 into Precision Imbuement, maxing out Cold Imbuement here with Mixed Cold Imbuement to make us do even more damage against frozen enemies, 3 into Frigid Finesse, 3 into Innervation for some more energy sustain, 3 into Second Wind, 1 into Adrenaline Rush, 3 into Haste, and finishing it off with Close Quarters Combat. Next up, we have our gear. Starting with our helmet, we're going to go with Harlequin's Crest, giving us a ton of life, some cooldown reduction, +4 to all of our skills, and a 20% damage reduction on top of that. For the chest plate, go for life, damage reduction, and for the last 2 rolls, you want to get 2 resistance rolls here, excluding cold resistance. With the aspect Resilient Assailant, giving us +10 to all of our elemental resistances and max resistances whenever we break stealth. It also reduces Concealment's cooldown by 10 seconds whenever we kill an elite, making it come up super frequent. For the gloves, you want to get ranks to Twisting Blades, crit chance, attack speed, and dex with the aspect accelerating. For the pants, I decided to go with Tybalt's Will. Since we get Concealment up super fast, we can really take advantage of that 40% damage multiplier that Tybalt gives whenever you become unstoppable, as well as it will give us another 50 energy back whenever we use Concealment. And lastly, for the boots, we're going with Penitent Greaves, allowing us to constantly chill enemies and gives up to a 10% damage multiplier against chilled enemies, so it just fits right into this build. Next, we have our weapons. For a crossbow, we want Dex, all stat, damage to crowd controlled, and for the last roll, you have a few options. Go for either crit damage, damage to close, or damage with core skills. And for the aspect, we're going to go ahead and put Blade Dancers here. As for our melee weapons, on one hand we're using Condemnation, having some solid base stats and a 30% chance to provide us with 3 combo points, and up to a 40% damage multiplier when we attack with 3 combo points. And for our other hand, we're going to be going with Doombringer. This makes us an absolute tank, giving us a ton of life and reducing enemies' damage with a Shadow Explosion on a lucky hit. Last up, we have our jewelry. For our amulet, you want to go for movement speed, dex percent, cooldown reduction, and ranks 2 frigid finesse. For the aspect, you want to go with Juggernaut, giving you all the armor you're going to need for the build. And next are rings. For one ring, you want to get the Ring of Star of the Skies. This ring has very good base stats and comes with amazing unique effect, allowing us to stack up a 40% damage multiplier by just spending energy, and on top of that, it reduces our energy cost. For your other ring, you want to go for life, crit chance, damage to crowd control, and crit damage with the aspect Rapid. I personally prefer using Rapid for some more attack speed, but you could swap this out for Edge Masters or Expectant for some more damage. Next up, we have the seasonal mechanic. For our first set of stones, we want to get Flash of Adrenaline and pair that with tactical support, duration support, and Genesis. Having these 3 supporting stones gives us 100% uptime on Flash Adrenaline, giving us always 50% more damage. For our other stone, we want to get Tempest paired with Safeguard support, Frigid support, and lastly, Evernight. Tempest has a very low cooldown, making it have 100% uptime on Safeguard and Evernight, giving us +4 to all of our skills and an additional 15% damage reduction. Frigid support could be swapped out with Fortify support if you feel like you have enough freezing capabilities, or if you're wanting some more defense or energy sustain, you could swap it with a different stone. Next up, we have our Paragon Boards. So we do have a 6-board setup, and starting with our glyphs, we're picking up Closer in the first board, Combat in the Cheap Shot board, Chip in the Tricks of the Trade board, Exploit in the Eldritch Bounty board, Control in the No Witnesses board, and finally in the Deadly Ambush board we have Turf. As for the legendary nodes we pick up, we're getting Cheap Shot for increased damage for nearby crowd-controlled enemies, Tricks of the Trade because we're alternating between Puncture and Twisting Blades all the time, we get this damage bonus for Twisting Blades. Eldritch Bounty, so whenever we use Cold Imbuement, we just get some more cold damage, making Cold Imbuement hit even harder than it already does. And then finally, Deadly Ambush, giving us that critical strike multiplier to any enemies that are in our caltrops. And as normal, the build planner will be linked below, so you can follow this board a lot closer there. And lastly, we have the bossing setup. Now, you definitely don't need to change anything to the previous stated build, but if you are wanting to optimize your boss damage for longer bossing sessions, here's what I would recommend without changing too much in the build. First up, the gear swaps. So you're going to swap Doombringer out with a legendary sword that has Dex, all stat, damage to crowd control, and damage to close with the aspect of the elements. The only other thing we swap out is our amulet for Banished Lord's Talisman, giving us some more crit chance, +2 ranks to Twisting Blades, and the unique effect making our overpower crits hit a ton more, and guarantees an overpower after 300 energy is spent. And the only other thing you really need to do is swap Concealment out for Shadow Clone. That'll give you plenty of damage for prolonged bossing sessions, and yes, you could squeeze out a ton more damage, but to do so you would have to alter the build a lot more than I would like when I'm swapping between dungeons and bossing, so it'd just be a headache going back and forth between the setups. And with that, we sum up this build guide on Uber Cold Imbued Twisting Blades. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any improvements or questions on the build, feel free to leave them in the comments below. With leaderboards coming soon, I am planning on doing a climb with some friends on those, going for some high ranks, and testing other builds out for them. So if you don't want to miss out on any builds that come in the future, leave this video a like and subscribe. That's all for today. Remember to have fun and take care.